Hey, business building warrior, Jim here with Silent Sales Machine Radio. Glad you could join us today. I'm going to be interviewing one of our students in just a moment who has built an incredible business. He and his family travel the world. He's been to multiple countries just in the past month. He's based in the United States. They've kind of settled down a little bit lately, but they've built an incredible business. He'll share the story with you here in just a moment. He came into our community because his mom suggested he do so. Started an Amazon business, went full-time a couple of years ago. He's doing about $7 million a year right now in sales. He shares with us. He breaks down all the details, his team, the margins, his work schedule. Check this out. He works Mondays until lunch and then about an hour a day the rest of the week to manage this incredible business, reselling on Amazon. That's right. He's not selling his own product to hit those numbers. He's a reseller. Now, he has recently, now that he's a few years into his journey, he's launched a private label product and it's going well. We spend some time on that, but he followed the structure of what we teach around here and he's doing extremely well. And we both agree later on in the interview, we kind of started discussing, hey, what's the opportunity look like right now for new sellers? What's the future of this opportunity look like? What's the reality of this? And we both agree that it is a phenomenal business opportunity with a very bright future. He's doing it at scale. He's built an incredible business and an incredible team. He's got a great lifestyle as a result. He followed the strategies we teach here. He's plugged into the network of contacts. He stays in great contact with his coach. They've become close friends. He talks about that as well, a coach on our team that helped him get where he is. And now they're friends and they talk all the time. We hear that kind of thing all the time around here. If you're looking for a community of integrity that produces the kind of results that you know are possible, I think you found the right place. Look into the products, courses, coaching that we have around here. We do it the right way. And Matt is just the latest example of one of our great students who's doing big things. And he's become an invaluable resource in our community as well. We haven't heard from him in quite some time. It was great to get an update on his multiple seven-figure business. His goal for 2026, $10 million. That's his sales goal. As a reseller, this is some good stuff. We really dive into some of the pricing strategies he's using as well. Check this out, just to give you a little teaser. He says that about 80% of his profits are coming from sales above buy box. He's paying attention to the above buy box strategies that we talk about all the time around here. If you're new around here, that just simply means you're not competing with everyone else trying to win the price. You're finding underserved ASINs, underserved products, and you're pricing high because shoppers want speed and they'll pay a lot more for products if they can get them quickly. That's an underserved product. We talk a lot about that on the show today as well. Hey, if you're ready to get started after you hear this episode, get over to provenamazoncourse.com or better yet, silentjim.com. Click on coaching. Come check out what we've got around here. We want to help you build a beautiful business. The future is bright for this business model. This is just the latest evidence of that. Be encouraged and inspired by my friend and a great coaching student who's come through our community, Matt Hassler. Let's roll. But Matt, welcome back to the podcast. Good to see you again, man.
Good seeing you too, Jim. Thanks again for having me back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to catch up with you. So how about we just do a quick recap of your story? Let's start there and then talk about what you're up to lately. Because you've got one of the coolest stories. And I love hearing the updates. It's been a while. Go ahead.
I appreciate it. So, I'm 31, background's like chemical engineering. We kind of started this journey with Amazon back in July of 2022. We ended up doing full-time camper traveling for a couple of years. Since then, we've now settled down, but we switched into full-time in Amazon back in January of 2024. So you spent 2 years. It's been a great journey. And yeah, we started with 15,000. Now we did about a little over 7 million last year.
Yeah. Yeah. How big's your team?
There's, I think, 9 of us now. It keeps oscillating. We've got 2 sourcers. I'm really heavy on the admin side because I don't like to do the work. But yeah, pretty small group.
Yeah. So how much of that is your time involved since you mentioned it?
Yeah. So I'm trying to reduce it as much as possible. Technically, I'm finished about all my work by Monday at lunchtime. And then I have about an hour a day that I like to do for like a little bit more complicated tasks. I'm always doing projects, but for repetitive tasks, it's normally done by Monday at lunchtime.
Nice. $7 million business. You're done by Monday lunch and then an hour or so a day kind of maintain with the team you've built and the strategies you've got.
Exactly.
Well done, man.
Thank
That's a
you.
beautiful business.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Not too bad. So go wherever you'd like to go. I would love to hear maybe a bit more backstory. What's working well for you? How are you finding the products you sell? Let's just talk it through it. I love the all the elements of the story. I think the listeners can benefit from just about anything you'd want to share.
Sure. So the business has definitely morphed over time. When we first started, it was RA, as many people do. Going to like some local stores, going to like the outlets. I remember being in TJ Maxx, and that was a miserable experience. So I never went back.
Mm-hmm.
Did that for like the first like year and a half. Went into OA a little bit. We would ship our products to Proven Prep out in Oregon, then getting that tax-free savings, of course. And then in 2024, we kind of shifted into wholesale. I was having a lot of problems with Amazon not accepting my retail receipts at the time. They were just in one of their moods. So I was like, I'm going to go wholesale and I'll never have problems again, which we know is not true.
Yeah.
And pretty much been wholesale this whole time. I really like wholesale because it just feels very consistent. I think it helps model after the replen model that you teach. So we only have 2 sourcers on our team right now, and we're able to do about 800 to 900,000 a month with that. Always looking to hire more good talent, but the sourcing side's really a small portion of our business. We do a lot of admin, so it's me and then 4 other admin individuals, and then my wife helps out some too.
Got you. Okay. And what would you say is working well right now for you? What elements of your business are working well? Then we'll talk about maybe some of the challenges that you're facing too. But what would you say is going right?
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to be a minority here. I feel like Amazon's been really accommodating for our cases. For the past like year and a half, we've gotten a lot of margin savings between like the removal orders, fraudulent return reimbursements, fixing our sourcing costs in Amazon. It can be a little bit of an arduous process, but they've started like accepting the invoices. And I feel like even with all of the changes that happened last year with like inbound shipping changes, margins kind of remained the same. So I'm really proud on that aspect. And I think Amazon's been treating us better than they were in 2024 and early 2025.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm hearing less cases of Amazon being completely irrational than maybe ever from
Mm-hmm.
my vantage point. I know a lot of people are frustrated, but that's always been, I mean, I've been doing e-commerce for 24 years. I don't remember a period where people weren't frustrated about something. But I think Amazon's gotten about as consistent as I've ever seen them in policy enforcement and responsiveness. And I mean, you would know with multiple 7-figure business, you're doing a whole lot more of that than most people. So it's good to hear that you
Yeah.
like being a little more consistent. I mean, there's still rough edges for sure.
Yeah, I don't really deal with them too much, right? So I don't deal with any cases. I would say that my team's escalated issues a lot less. So I'm assuming everything is going much more smoothly. We only meet once a month for most of the aspects of the business for like escalations. But in regards to the shipment invoicing, I think I only wrote off like 3 or 4 shipments last year that we weren't able to get reimbursed for. So far less than all the previous years.
With hundreds of shipments, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think we ship out because with like the 5 split for the
Right.
equal boxes, we probably do 50 to 70 shipments a week in that regard.
Yeah, right. In 3 or 4, you
Yeah.
had to write off. That's not bad. That's really not bad. That's odds at all right there. So you're doing mostly FBA still?
Yep. Still mostly FBA. FBM just doesn't seem to have the sales velocity for us.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have maybe less than 10 ASINs that we sell FBM.
Just a handful. Maybe the bigger, clunkier stuff, or what the prices?
I like a lot of hazmat stuff.
Hazmat.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay. So some of the bigger, clunkier hazmat maybe makes sense to merchant fulfill. Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Well, keep talking, man. You've got. I mean, I can ask you questions, but I just want you to describe the reality. Like, how are you finding products? You mentioned you're into wholesale now. How many
Yeah.
new products are you finding per week?
Oh, that's all good questions. You always have good questions. So we're essentially 100% wholesale. We still do a little bit of OA because we've been purchasing some of the same like replens that we have been since 2022, and I don't want to give those up.
Yeah.
In regards to wholesale, we do like the distributor outreach. Essentially, that's pretty much being automated. My wife's been leading that, but now we have an assistant that creates that initial contact. The accounts get opened up, and we use a really sophisticated process for sourcing called Keepa Product Finder.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
20
And
bucks a month.
yeah, our whole business has been based off of just using Keepa Product Finder for sourcing. We use the same 3 filters for every distributor. It's 500,000 BSR. Amazon's out of stock at least 50% of the time, and the right brand. And that's what our entire business model has been built on for over 2 years now since switching to wholesale.
Amazon out of stock 50% of the time or more, you said.
Yeah. Just it helps speed up the sourcing a little bit. That way we're not looking at all the Amazon ones where we're going to compete with a little bit more. So we have 2 sourcers. Sometimes we get up to 3. Sometimes we're down to 2. They normally submit 30-ish, 40 leads total between the 2 of them. Probably 60, 70% get approved. But being in wholesale, we tend to have more replenishables, I'd say, as a ratio compared to some of the other avenues.
Man, that's some gold. You dropped some golden tips there. I want to talk about the out of stock thing with Amazon for just a second. Let's dig into that just a little bit. For people who don't realize it, that's just an indicator that Keepa tracks that tells you if Amazon's in stock or not. Did you happen to catch, it's been a little over a year ago, I asked Keepa to include a filter that told us not just the percentage of the time that Amazon was out of stock, but how many times per month they were running out of stock. Ooh. As a number. Have you seen that OOS field?
No, I haven't sourced in over 2 years.
Okay.
So I haven't even looked into that section yet.
I got you. Well, you might have your team kind of take a look at that because the average can be a little deceptive in representing the real story.
Mm-hmm.
If Amazon's coming and going constantly, but they're there 85% of the time,
mm-hmm.
I would argue that's a pretty decent ASIN to look at because they're running out of stock. Let's say they're running out of stock 15 times a month, but they're active 85% of the month. Do you follow me?
Yeah, I follow you.
They're running out of stock frequently. I want to be all over that. And that's higher than 50% Amazon out of stock rate. I'm just saying, keep an eye on it because that's a field I asked Keepa to add and they've added it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so especially if they're going in and out of stock that frequently, it's going to be a high velocity, a lot of opportunity for really high margins then.
Exactly. High margin opportunities, even though Amazon's showing that they have it 85% of the time. Right. So just keep an eye on that. That's one of the filters that's been in there a little over a year. OOS, it's called the OOS field for your sourcing team. I think that tip right there might get them excited to find some like, oh, wow, we've been missing some golden nuggets, man. So yeah, well, that's fantastic. How big is your catalog now? You told me before we hit record, but you said you're 1,400?
1,400 ASINs approximately. Some come and go as they always do. But that's tends to be what our Amazon store sits at.
Yeah, I got you. Because one of the strategies we're starting to see emerge right now is letting software do the heavy lifting and getting catalogs, multiple times bigger than that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the only way to do it. I mean, you're sitting here with 1,400 used to sound like a huge number. Now we've got people with 100,000 ASINs that they're tracking using 3P Mercury, for example. We're like, hey, what should I buy today? Okay, go buy 10 units of this, 15 units of that. It sounds to me like you're going a little deeper on your winners. I'm guessing the 80-20 rule applies. Like 80% of your revenue is coming from 20% of that 1,400 catalog, right? And those are kind of your golden nuggets. And I'm guessing you go a little deeper than a few units at a time on some of that.
We definitely go a little bit deeper. Our catalog would be much larger. I get tired of replenishing, adding to buy sheets, etc. Mm-hmm. So we started cutting off the smaller ones, especially because every ASIN that you have could, in theory, be a risk to your Amazon account. So, for example, anything that doesn't make about $75 to $100 a month, we cut.
Yeah.
So it just makes everything seem a little bit cleaner. It helps with invoice tracking. We definitely go a little bit deeper. There's some I'm sure you're in the same situation at times. Some ASINs you sell $300 to $500 a month on. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're only a couple dollar profit a piece, but they add up a lot. Yeah. And then we tend to do a higher average selling price than I would say the normal seller does. Our ASP is right around $65.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is relatively high. That's towards the higher end of what you typically see.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So is that something you're filtering for, or did you just end up there?
It just ends up there. I mean, we've been as high as $2,500 ASIN that sells like 30 to 40 a month. I just bought one today that's $4,200. So,
wow. And you're FBAing that.
Yeah. And it's a lot of trust, right?
That is. But I mean, you're at the level where that's not that's a fraction of a percentage of the hit of your business versus someone else who's doing $20,000 a month doing that. They might be like, I'm not sending this to FBA and risking them losing it and me only getting a portion of the reimbursement, right? But that just shows you, Again, for the listener, if that last moment flew past you, you're sending items that they cost you, one unit cost you $2,500,
Yep.
and you're sending it to FBA. And last year, you only had a handful of reimbursements that you had to write off that Amazon didn't do you right with sending 50 to 70 shipments a week, you said, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And of those shipments that were wrote off, it wasn't like they lost everything.
Yeah.
Normally it's
It
a
wasn't a
couple
total
$100.
loss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They hit you with far less than what you were hoping for, but they didn't like zero it out or anything. It's always interesting to me because you hear those horror stories that kind of float to the top of the communities that you got to realize all day, every day, it's business as usual. Amazon's meeting its commitments and doing what it said it would do. And people are following policy and making money and selling stuff. It's just when there's a problem, people rush to the groups and
Yeah.
scream from the
I mean,
mountaintop.
we've been that person before. I
Oh,
don't know if
sure.
you
We all have.
recall back in, I think it was August of 2024. So after I'd switched full time and, devoted
Yes.
this as our income, there's a brand that was about 50% of our catalog. And I get an email saying, hey, you're restricted. You have 1 day to sell through, and then you have to remove everything. So I see that at like 1 a.m. and then I don't get back to sleep, right? I'm repricing everything. I'm like, seller snap, just liquidate it. And then 3 hours later, it's a message saying you're no longer allowed to sell this brand anymore. Fighting with Amazon for multiple days. And then they come back and say, we're sorry, it was a mistake. You are allowed to sell this product. But during the 48 hours, they were telling me I had no other choice and I had to remove it all. And it was going to be about $45,000 just to ship it back to my house.
And I'm sure you made several penny on the dollar sales in the meantime because
Yeah.
repriced.
And I was so thankful for every one of those sales too at the time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah. And a good handful of very healthy lessons in that story, diversifying and being willing and ready to pivot. And yeah, there is going to be adventure along the way, but you've stuck with it. You and your family have been able to travel the world. You were giving me the list of the countries you've been in just the past month. Rattle those off for me again.
Yeah. So middle of February, we went to South Korea. We went to Philippines, got the team together, hung out on a resort for a few days, did some cool excursions. And then we were in Japan for 10 or 11 days as well. So, and team handled most of it. I think I only had 4.5 days set for work and I didn't even need all of them. So it's cool to have that freedom and being able to work remotely.
Yeah. So a lot of that's visiting with your team. You've got the virtual assistants around the world and what's their payment incentives and payment plans? Just, break that down for me. You don't have to tell me exactly what they earn. I'm just curious, who plays what role on a team, a $7 million business? Who plays what role?
Okay. Yeah, sure. So we start all of our sources off the same way. So I don't mind saying like that out loud. So $4 an hour. Mm-hmm. And then we track based off of spend. If they source more than $20,000 in a month, we give them 1%. So one of my VAs, he's found $78,000 so far this month of like new ASINs for us to buy. So he'll get a $580 bonus at the end of the month. A really nice incentive for him.
Yep.
Aside from that, we have two full-time admins, one for Amazon, one for eBay, and kind of like a catch-all. So they start off at $6 an hour, and then it's primarily raises, and we offer overtime. And then we have an operations manager who makes more, and then we also give her a percentage of business profit year over year. So that way she gets to also experience some of the growth as well.
Fantastic. Yeah. You're very matter of fact. I love how just steady and stable this whole thing is in your mind. It's
all facts. I love systems. I love building. And it's also really cool because when we went over there, it was a big joke because, my ops manager, she has a Lululemon purse. My admin, he's got a Lululemon shirt on, and I have a $5 shirt because I'm not willing to spend that much money for myself. But they're getting to live pretty good lives over there.
Yeah. Well, sometimes when people hear, $4 per hour, man, that's slave labor. What are you doing? Abusing? Like, no, you got to multiply those numbers by about 7 to 8, for the Philippines. That's how it spends. So you're giving somebody basically 2 or 3 times minimum wage.
Absolutely. Our sourcer who just joined us towards the end of last year, he was making half of it working for the federal government over there. Mm-hmm. One of my associates said it's the first time they've ever been debt free. My ops manager just bought land and she's building a house for her family. Yeah. Really cool opportunities and to know how much further the dollar goes for them.
Yeah. It's one of the most under-leveraged, underutilized resources we have available to us as e-commerce warriors in any adventure is, man, these people who are just willing to work their tail off for $4 an hour that spends like 35.
Yeah.
an hour, right? Like you can really change their life. That's a significant income plus a couple bonuses here and there, and they're just work their tail off and loyal for life.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've, the longest employed one by us is about 3 years now. And we've hired US based ones, employees as well previously.
Sure.
And we feel like the work ethic is comparable, if not slightly better over in the Philippines. So
Yeah.
we just exclusively hire from there now.
As a general statement, yeah, especially if you kind of filter through. I mean, it's hard to beat. Here, you got people screaming if they can't earn $20 an hour, and there, $4 an hour changes their life. I mean, I've heard the stories of the people that get up early in the morning and take a bus and a bike and a train to get to a job that's 3 hours away, where they earn $1 an hour, and they do the same thing on the way home. And they speak great English. They're internet savvy. They're trainable. They're motivated. They've got a degree in education. Like, there's hundreds of thousands of people like that saying, yeah, I'll work for $4 an hour from home. What do you want me to do? Yeah, it's a huge opportunity. So hopefully some people start to think in that direction as a result of this. Well, what else would you like to talk about? What else are you up to? What's your vision for this year? Maybe let's go there. Like, what's your forecast for 2026 sales?
Yeah. So a lot of our growth was due to some very risky, I'd say, like cash flow, right? We didn't have like a large savings, especially when we were with the W-2 job. So we're trying to build up a reserve to cover the full 6 months, especially if all of our like vendors decided to call their net 30s or 90s today. So that's the kind of the goal revenue wise, targeting 10 million, because it's just such a nice round number. Aside from that, there's nothing else behind it. We started a launch of our first private label last month, which even now, after doing Amazon for almost 4 years, I still get really nervous because it feels like a whole nother ball game.
It is.
I really like the replens model, but it is cool to have something with a brand name on it that you own.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, and that's a sellable separate asset that can get into retail stores. We've seen that story happen and play out around here.
Yeah.
It can get big fast, but it's also a great way to diversify your skill set. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot more to learn though. A lot more software is associated with it. PPC campaigns, I'm just winging it. I mean, it seems to be doing pretty well. Joseph Kelsey's helping with it. We went in on it together. So
Really?
yeah,
That's
from the
crazy.
Yeah.
I just messaged him today, checking in on him because it's been a few months. I hadn't talked to him since late last year, I think. And I'm like, I got to catch up with that guy. I wonder what he's up to. And then you bring his name up. That's so cool.
Yeah. So he was my original coach for the Proactive 3-year program. And then he's probably like the guy I'm closest to in the space. I chat with him daily. I'm heading out there to see him and his wife in 2 weeks. So
and I love their story. I just love their story. And she like is former head of SWAT for her city.
Yeah.
She weighs like 110 pounds and she's like a SWAT beast, man. I love it. What a great story though, that they're able to come home full time in e-commerce. And yeah, I got to get caught up with those guys. Yeah. I forgot he was your coach. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's a really good guy.
It's great.
I did put a list together of a couple of things that as I've been, expanding network, I've met a lot of other like 7-figure sellers. And I kind of got a list of some things that it seems like they kind of are struggling with. I was going to try to go through and kind of like give some suggestions if that would work for you.
Oh, that's great, man. Yeah. Everything you've said so far is going to be very valuable to a good chunk of listeners. So if you got some things in mind you want to share, let's go.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So in my like limited experience, it seems like a lot of people, as they switch into this full time, they've almost made a job for themselves. And I would say it's like somewhat disorganized. And of course, the whole goal of getting to, to become a 7-figure seller is that you want to buy back your time. So, whether you're like just starting or later on, going through and like tracking your open cases on a spreadsheet was like number one. And I'm really surprised at how many people don't do that. Then essentially using that with a task manager like Asana, which is free, even for a whole team, you can do a free version. And my team did that until the end of last year. And you can set up like recurring tasks. So, Amazon's going to close a case within 5 days. So you just say, I need to respond every 3 or 4 days. Amazon's far more likely to approve you and give you a favorable outcome if it's on the first case versus opening it up and linking back to the first case in my experience. And then I was also going to say, like, make sure you join a group of other similar sellers, maybe a little bit lower, a little bit higher. I think there's a lot of really good conversations that happen on like the open forums, but it can also be a little doom and gloom. When you get into the smaller groups, you'll get into like far more like the weeds about, return reimbursements for fraudulent returns. We're about 95% success rate on those. And essentially just modifying a template where Amazon almost always approves it helps out a lot for the margins. essentially paying like an admin to open up the shipment cases. So I've met multiple sellers that are doing 2 or 3 million still using the other services, which are really nice, but they were paying 60 to 80,000 a year for like lost inbound to those services, and an admin from the Philippines would save a lot of money.
Yeah, that's cool. Would you be open to hearing from seven-figure, larger sellers who deal with that on a frequent basis to
Yeah,
collaborate? Yeah,
absolutely. Right. We can all learn from one another. We all have different models and different struggles. And if I hear about your struggle, I might not even realize that I have that struggle and I'm just writing off that information.
yeah. It's just a bill you pay that you don't need to be, and you never even thought about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then updating the sourcing cost monthly. It seems like Amazon's been more accepting of those pricing changes lately.
Yes.
So when we get reimbursed now, I don't think we'd lose money on anything. I know some people just go ahead and keep raising it anyway because they want to make the money like the good old days. But I think because we don't do that for all of our ASINs, I don't know if there's a back end, but they seem to be approving most of our sourcing cost changes. I think there's less than 15 ASINs that we take a loss on now. So.
Cool. Okay. So just in layman's terms, so we didn't lose anyone there. Amazon reimburses based on what you say you paid, and you can update those prices. But if you just go across the board, I've seen some people say, hey, just go across the board, raise every price by 10% every month. Amazon's smart enough to kind of see through that, I think. And
Yeah.
they'll kind of punish you for gaming the system. But if you're hitting your top ASINs and keeping an eye on them and updating them appropriately, like, hey, this cost me $8 a unit now. It used to only cost me $6. Amazon, when it comes to reimbursement time, they're going to honor that $8 if you're not abusing the system. And I don't know that anyone's put a real science behind it yet that I've seen, but it seems to be like what you just described, where if you don't abuse the system, they're really pretty good.
That's how we feel. So, I mean, we have the rule of thumb where go ahead, submit the legitimate price, the legitimate invoice. If they deny us, raise it 6 to 7%, move it towards there, right? If they're accepting it, we don't go beyond that. Just like everything else in business and life, you want to operate with honesty and integrity. Even if you could get ahead slightly, you sleep better at night knowing that you're not trying to cheat anybody out.
Yeah, it comes back to get you every time when you think you're cheating a little bit too, man. So yeah, good advice. Yeah, what else? Any other tips?
I have one of the things I think helped us a lot in the beginning was we went really heavy both in coaching and software, right? Invest in yourself, because we're all doing this to have more time with our loved ones or with our hobbies. And no matter where you are, you want to eventually trade your like other assets, whether time or knowledge, for that time. Mm-hmm. So when it was Amazon, I went through your all's coaching program and it helped us probably accelerate 3 to 6 months. And that's something that will just forever build on itself. Even now I work with Carl Jacoby, right, for like life coaching. It's just always one of those things that you can always just continue to learn. And it's easier if you learn from someone who's already gotten ahead of you. Would be one. And then I'm always been a big proponent for software. If it can save you time, if it can be more accurate with data, because we can pull all the same reports that a software does from Amazon, but it just takes a lot of time. You get an Excel sheet formula wrong, which is bound to happen eventually. It can really throw off your numbers. So I think we actually have less software now than when we started. But in the beginning, when we were purchasing a lot of like the nice softwares at the time, it was like Inventory Lab, Be Cool, Tactical Arbitrage back in the day. It just accelerates everything. And the more time that you have to source or manage your team, the faster you'll be able to grow.
I completely agree. Nat, a coaching director on our team, says the only thing more expensive than getting a coach, the only thing more expensive than getting a good coach is not getting a coach. Right?
Yeah.
Because of, again, you mentioned it, the 3 to 6 month acceleration. Having someone who's been there, done that, can stop you from making really expensive, stupid mistakes that you regret. Mm-hmm. Somebody you can bounce those things off of. You don't know what questions you should be asking. They can help you ask the right questions. Yeah, it compounds on itself, and it's not like you're 3 to 6 months further ahead right now as a result of coaching. I would argue that hockey stick, you're a year and a half maybe further ahead than you would be because of the compounding effects of making good decisions in the right direction. So yeah, well done, man. But you've done the work. You've put in the time and the energy. You're a system thinker. You haven't allowed yourself to get bogged down and like, well, only I can source, only I can click the buy button, only I can. I've seen the people that they should have T-shirts. Only I can do this part, and it's like tape on the box. Only me, because I'm the only one that does that part right. And they've built themselves a decent business, but they're doing every single piece of it themselves and they just can't let go. And you're the ultimate, like, I'm going to let it go. Hey, we'll get back to the episode in just a minute, but I want to tell you about our sponsor today, 2D Workflow. What do? Well, they help save a lot of sellers a lot of money on the inbound shipping fees that you're paying Amazon. What they've done is they've gone out and negotiated some great rates, better than Amazon's rates, with the same carriers you're already using to send shipments to Amazon. So you can see a side-by-side comparison and use the cheapest rates. If it doesn't work out for you, just uninstall the app. But for a couple of weeks, they're going to give you full free access and you can see the rates side by side. If you love it, keep using it. If you don't, just uninstall it. They're a great sponsor of this show and we're so grateful for them. Go check them out at silentjim.com/2D. That's the number 2 and the letter D. Thank you, 2D Workflow, for the sponsorship. Let's get back to the episode. And you're the ultimate, like, I'm going to let it go. So maybe talk me through that for just a second. What's it feel like to let something go to someone who, especially when they're getting started, is less competent than you would be? How do you manage that? Is there an internal struggle there? Do you monitor them for a season? Like, talk me through turning over an important process, like putting money on your credit card.
Yeah, you ask a really good question. This is something that I think everybody struggles with, no matter where they're at in the stage.
I've seen it thousands of times. Yes.
Yeah. So essentially, I'm going to say what our process is designed to look like. I'm not going to say I'm perfect at it. Sure. So essentially, I create whatever task that I'm trying to offload to somebody else. I create a Loom video. If it's really complicated, I'll create multiple Loom videos and spread it out, or try to do it independently myself multiple times. That way, if there is a slight variant, it gets called. Dan Martell and Buy Back Your Time wrote about that in really good detail. And that's a fantastic book. If you haven't read it, I'm sure you have. Process, I provide that information so that they can review it ahead of time. After that, we then meet for 2 to 4 weeks and we'll do the calls together. We'll go ahead and record. I use Teams and then I'll send them the recordings afterwards. We'll go through the process. Then they will spend the next 2 to 4 weeks doing the task in front of me. I'm there for questions. I honestly try to do other work while they're there because that way they realize like they need to be figuring this out. I'm only there for the backup questions. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, they'll go ahead through the rest of the process and they'll kind of own it. I try to put checks on it to make sure that if they start to do something wrong continuously, it doesn't cost too much money. But I used to think I was the best at finding invoices for inbound shipping and responding to cases, and my team is far better. I started off with hiring sourcers back in the day. I wish I would have hired admins because I still love to source. I just don't do it. And the administrative side, it really tears down your energy when you're having to deal with Amazon support by yourself. Meanwhile, my team seems to do a really good job and they seem to enjoy it far more than I did.
Yeah, it's their job. There's their specialty. Yeah. The law of specialization is your friend. It's a law of how the world works, man. You're far better off being really good at one thing and weak in all bunch of other areas than you are being kind of good at a bunch of things and thinking, yeah, I can probably do that myself. Just the people who win big are the specialists. They're just borderline incompetent in all the other areas you'd think that they'd be good at. But that's who wins in business, man, the specialist, specialization. And I love the process you just spelled out of it. You've got very much a taper into it. I'm going to look over your shoulder and, push you along this standard operating procedure process that we've put in place as an organization. You don't just throw them in there and say, learn it.
Right? I used to. Mm-hmm. And then I would be upset with them because I'd think that they did a poor job. And, there's a phrase that if all of your employees suck, you suck at managing.
Oh, I'd say any.
Yeah. And that
I'd replace all with any. Because as Dave Ramsey says, if you wouldn't hire them again today for what you're paying them, you should have fired them yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. And firing's hard because, you're impacting their livelihood and it's really hard. And that's something I need to get better at.
Or you're sending them on to do something that they were called to do instead of struggling through this, right?
That's true.
It's a matter of perspective.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I think the tapering helps out a lot for them. It also builds them with their own confidence. The more ownership that you provide the individuals with, I think the better job they do because they get to see their direct impact. So we started giving off like projects to our team, like legitimate projects that if I was going to work on it would take me 3 to 4 hours to build and then test for a couple of weeks. Our team has now been set up. It's within their like niche or category. So admin, ops manager. One of our like sourcer leads, he helped build a spreadsheet that tracks all of our distributors, promotions, their frequency, at what point we'd want to go through and review them. And that would have taken me a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the power of them taking ownership, you giving them ownership. And you've mentioned you've built in incentive rewards for them too on the process. Sounds like a very loyal team that like each other.
Yeah, it's an awesome team. I look forward to getting on the calls with them. They're very respectful of time. Getting to see them in person, I think, changes the dynamics quite a bit. Of course, it's one of those things that they know they're not going to come into work tomorrow and be left without a job, which a lot of them had that previously with other Amazon sellers. They know that we're building up a really good reserve. So if I get deactivated today, they still have a job tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I want them to make sure that they're being paid adequately, that they don't leave to make 50 cents more elsewhere.
Yeah. Right. Right. Sense of security. Yeah. That's very valuable. It creates a very cohesive team. You mentioned, this is a random question, but you mentioned Japan, which is a country that doesn't come up that often around here. What are you doing in Japan, to the degree that you can share?
Yeah. So Japan, they have really good ramen. They have anime. And they have.
I'm just talking about business, though. Of course.
Oh no,
my son's obsessed with Japan. Was that just a fun trip then?
Yeah. So we went to. I promised my team last year that we were going to end up finally getting to like see each other and hang out. And to fly out of Salt Lake City, we were required to go to South Korea or Tokyo. So we flew over South Korea and we're like, we might as well stay for a few days. Went down to the Philippines for 6 days and hung out with them.
I got you. That makes sense. There's no direct flights to the Philippines. So yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd say it's more cool than working. The fact that we got to like spend 11 days in Japan, which has like the best food we've ever been.
My wife and my two oldest sons went because my oldest son's obsessed with Japanese culture, was learning Japanese there for a while, knows a fair amount still. So they took a trip. And yeah, it looked like quite the adventure, man. Just incredible culture. Yeah. Very polite, very quiet.
Yeah, we're going up like down, and I know this isn't Amazon related at all. We're going down like Main Street. It looked just like New York City. All the cars are EV. No one's yelling and shouting. I think I heard 3 cars honk their horn in 3 weeks of being in Asia, not including the Philippines. Right. I mean, they do, but
yeah, you see people very orderly get on and off the subways. It's just do they all have the same book they're reading or something? I mean, they have a respect. There's an honor. It's an honor culture, honor-based culture, right? And so someone's older than you honor them, right? The whole bowing thing. And it's a beautiful culture. Not to get off topic, but yeah, I was just curious because you don't hear Japan come up very much. Amazon is in Japan, but I don't know of a whole lot of people that are crushing on Amazon Japan. Typically, people who live outside the United States who are successful on Amazon are selling in the US. You got all kinds of students like that. Even in Australia, they're selling in the US. The UK.
We only sell on Amazon US. Do you happen to sell in other marketplaces?
No. I'm only US. No, I mean, I have no good reason to go anywhere else. No one's given me, as a reseller, especially, there's no good reason to go anywhere else. Canada can sell at home. UK can sell at home and do okay as a reseller. But everywhere else, it's a bit of a struggle to make a living as a reseller with the strategies we teach and the tools we use. So Canada, UK. So if you don't live in Canada, UK, or US, you need to sell in the US.
I agree. There's so much opportunity here. There's no lack of ASINs opportunity. There's really no reason to try to expand beyond that. The same headache that you would get by expanding to a different marketplace opens up to far more risks, and it's taken away from just being really good at your current system.
Let's talk about pricing strategy for just a second at scale. I'm curious what you're doing. Are you more about trying to win the buy box, or are you more about trying to find opportunities where you can ignore the buy box and sell at higher margins? Which more describes your strategy?
The correct answer is I just tank all the prices. No, I'm just kidding. So for a lot of our
guy.
So for the slower ASINs, we go for buy box. We use Seller Snap, of course. We put it on the AI repricer, so it kind of like splits it amongst everybody else. Not too aggressive. For some of our really fast moving ASINs, I set a min probably about 10 to 15% higher than the buy box. Some of our stuff can be somewhat seasonal, so I really wait for the competition to drop off. We do have some aggression based off of buy box, based off of like individual seller behavior. But I would say when we were talking earlier about that 80-20 rule, the 80% of our profit is probably above buy box items.
Above buy box.
Yeah. So like if something's selling for like $150, we're probably sitting at that 165, 170 mark, most likely. We'll keep tapering it down. But if we don't have like the velocity that we want, but when you look at it at buy box, I might be 10% ROI. But if you go into the data offers tab on Keepa, you can see a lot more detail, and you can normally see the FBA sellers stock count changing to give a good indication of sales velocity.
So on a regular basis, you are priced higher than your competition in making sales.
Yeah.
As a $7 million seller with a nice big data set to look at on a regular basis. You said 80% of your profits, right?
Yeah. If we're looking like not 80% of the ASINs, but 80% of the revenue and profits is going to be from those above the buy box.
And the reason that and now see if this resonates with you. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard me talk about this, Matt, but I want to talk this through for just a second, because this is a big point that I don't think we have the right tools yet to help us calculate this. And Amazon isn't very cooperative with us as sellers, but there's an undeniable phenomenon happening where the easiest way for me to illustrate it is to say shoppers use the Amazon app the way people who are hungry use DoorDash. Meaning, if I have the option to get a $15 pizza 4 days from now or a $25 pizza right now, I want the $25 pizza, right? So with hundreds of warehouses spread out across the United States, shoppers are looking at two options every time they shop, the fast option or the cheap option. And a lot of people choose the fast option given the two. That's where the above buy box activity comes into play. That's the only rational reason someone would pay above buy box.
I agree.
They want it faster.
As a consumer, if I order something, it needs to be here before 8 a.m. tomorrow, or I keep going down the list to find one that will.
And here's what's crazy. Amazon doesn't even let you sort by speed as a shopper. There's no feature to sort by speed. I'm like, Amazon, please show two buy boxes if you want, the fast one and the cheap one. Because those of us who are playing above the buy box constantly, people are finding us and they're thrilled to get it faster. The most extreme example, have you heard about the guy who it was on an ASIN with 200 other sellers? Have you heard that story?
I don't think so.
Student of ours. Okay. He actually does a lot of work with my son now. My son was in his wedding. It's a kid that attends church with us. Just came up to me. You know how people come to you like, hey, I want to get into Amazon. I'm like, here's my book,
Yeah.
And I hear from him 3 months later, he's in our coaching program and he's killing it. I had him on the podcast a year and a half or so ago. He said, Jim, I found this ASIN. 200 other sellers are on this ASIN. 200. But I paid attention to your above buy box training, and I didn't look at how many sellers there were. I looked at how many FBA sellers there were. And there was only like 3 FBA sellers because it was a lower price point product.
Yeah.
And all the other FBM sellers are thinking, I can't make any profit winning the buy box at that price point. So I'm going to have to do it merchant fulfilled. Well, the FBA seller, they had a slightly higher price. Well, he jumped in double the buy box. So the buy box was bounced around $8 or $9. He jumped in at $16, $17 as the highest price among 200 sellers. Okay, so we got this super fast selling ASIN, 200 sellers. He's the highest price. He sold 2,400 units in a few weeks as the highest price without winning the buy box a single time that we know of. Why? Because he was the fastest shipping option. And that's awesome. What shoppers want.
Yeah.
Right? That's a great story, isn't it?
That's an awesome story. I need more ASINs. Like, I can't imagine. I've never sold 2,400 units in like a month before.
I would never have advised him to do that. He came to me with a story in retro, right? So I'm like, if he'd have come to me, like, what should I do? I'm like, send in 20, 30, see what happens. Oh, they all sold. I'm like, go buy 40, 50 more.
Yeah.
He was like, no, I'm all in. He went to the Target that's like 2 miles from my house, right over there. It's the same Target my wife was at yesterday. He went to the manager and said, I need all the units you have of this. I'm not even afraid to tell you what it was. It's boxes of crayons, right?
Oh, yeah.
Three packs of boxes of crayons just flying off the shelf. And all these merchant fulfilled sellers are thinking, well, I got to win the buy box, $8 or $9. That's the most I can do for this $3 item, right? It's like, no, I'm going to charge $16 and FBA it. I'll let all the scaredy cats fight over the buy box. I'm going to FBA this thing and jack my price up to where there's some margin. So he's making $5-6 a sale, way more than the merchant fulfilled guys are. And he's
Yeah.
selling 2,400 units. That's a fun
That's really
story.
cool.
And Amazon was on it too, and they had a lot of stock, but they were out of stock constantly. They couldn't
Mhm.
keep it in stock. That's where that out of stock percentage came into play. I mean,
Okay.
not the out of stock percentage, but the out of stock count. How many times per month does Amazon run out of stock? They're running out of stock 15, 20 times a month, according to Keepa, right? But they were in stock 85% of the time, but they were hitting zero frequently. There's some gold there. Those lower priced ASINs that all the FBA sellers are afraid to touch because there's no margin. Well, just jack your price up and serve the customers who eat DoorDash every night,
Mm-hmm.
right? Serve those customers. They're out there. And
Yeah, that's definitely really good advice. It's also there's low dollar ASINs. If you work with a prep center, it also makes that relationship better. We'll do a lot of like low volume, like lower profit, but it builds the numbers up. And again, it's just about that relationship with your warehouse.
yeah, you become a top tier client instead of a, yeah, we'll get to you when we can client. Yeah.
Your shipments are more frequent. Amazon rewards you. But that's a really cool story about the crowns. I've definitely he was a very smart guy to even consider that and for that level of analysis too.
Well, he didn't know what he didn't know. Brand new seller. And we say, hey, if you find ASINs where there's not enough FBA coverage, send in some high priced units and see what happens. And he tested it small a couple times. But as soon as he put them, and this is a new seller, sending stuff, it's on its way to the warehouse and it's selling because he's faster. These merchant fulfilled sellers can't get it to you. It takes 3 to 5 days for them to do anything, right? So they're not your competition. If there's any demand at all, ignore all the merchant fulfilled sellers. Ignore the prices on their ASIN. You're only competing with the FBA sellers for the shoppers who prefer speed.
Yeah.
So I've said a lot lately that my theory is, and I'm getting more and more evidence to this, and if Amazon would cooperate, we could have a load of evidence on this. They need to cooperate with me. They want to be known as the low-priced shopping option, which is why they don't cooperate on this. But here's what I've been saying, Matt, is millions of shoppers today will pay far less than they were willing to for items on Amazon that will arrive. Those items will arrive far later than they wish they could have them. In other words, they're paying less than they'd be willing to wait way longer than they want to. If someone would just put a unit of that product in a warehouse near them, they'd pay way more gladly. It's not there. So there's millions of ASINs that are completely underserved when you look at Amazon through that lens. That's the above buy box opportunity.
I agree. In our above buy box, it's not to like that extreme. We don't look at, I guess, our current setup. We don't look at FBA versus FBM. I just have them go into the data offers tab and look at essentially what's like the higher price FBA seller selling at, so we can look at stock counts. But I'd say like a common one is like something's listed for 105 as buy box. We're selling it at 129 and we're getting 20 or 30 units like a week sold.
Yeah.
But that's probably against 20, 30, 40 other FBA sellers too.
Sure. Yeah. But even better if there's hardly any FBA sellers.
Yeah, agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
I mean, you can really, because you are the only fast option at that point, especially for people who live near the warehouses where your inventory happens to be. I mean, Amazon's offering 20-minute drone delivery in some major cities now.
That's nice.
You can't 20-minute drone something from Seattle to Tampa. Someone's got to have a unit in the warehouse in Tampa or it's not going to work, right? So as Amazon offers these faster and faster logistic delivery times, the faster Amazon gets at delivering product, the bigger that list of underserved ASINs gets because there's just not enough FBA sellers with enough units. So I see a very bright future for people who understand this simple lesson. If there's not enough FBA, send in a few units and price them high and watch what happens. That's the bottom line.
I agree. That's definitely, I'll need to have my team do that because we are on a lot of ASINs where there's probably 20 or 30 FBM sellers, and we do have it directed that they should only look at FBA sellers for competition, but we probably don't target enough for like a higher dollar amount on those, especially if the competitors have a really low quantity count.
If there's not enough FBA sellers to fill a few hundred warehouses around the country, price high, good things happen. Yeah, I'd be curious to see if you guys play with that a little bit, what you come back with, especially on the high velocity ASINs, which there's just so many of. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it, man. Well, cool. We both learned some new stuff today. Was there anything else on your mind that that you wanted to dive into? Say, oh, I know something else. I've got to. I forgot to even ask you this. When we talk about numbers, we've got to cover margins. So, your goal is 10 million this year.
Yeah.
What's your margin goal? What'd you hit last year? Just to be thorough.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know you guys went through this. Margin goal is 10%. Last year was 10%.
Okay.
So clarifying that includes my salary in it, because at the end of the day, I just care about what I pay myself.
Right.
So
Excellent. That's a great business. That's you wrap up by lunch on Monday, an hour a week or an hour a day on the other days of the week. I mean, that's not a bad gig at all, man.
no, it's not. And it's really cool seeing it grow as much as it does. Like last year, we went up 130% growth, a lot of like reinvesting. So this year is only like 42% growth, trying to hold the margins to be about the same and start pulling out more to focus on other business avenues and probably dive a little bit deeper into private label, just because we know there's going to be some losses with it, but there is some opportunity there.
Mhm. What niche are you in with your PL?
I'm going to say like business industrial, just because that's my background and niche.
Mhm.
I think Amazon's a lot easier if you do something you're passionate about. And I worked in industrial space for 7 years,
Sure.
and I still stick with that space now in Amazon.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. As a private label seller, it helps to have some passion about it because you're going to be the advocate. When I'm reselling, I really don't care. I most of the stuff we've sold in the last couple of years was an ASIN. I didn't even look at the description of the product. I could care less. It's a number on a spreadsheet, man. Like it's a stick of metal that plumbers use. I'm like, I don't know what this is for, man, but I know it's $3 a sale, So
Yeah.
yeah, we're selling more of it, right? So, but when you get into private label, you're going to be the advocate for that brand, and you need to know what it does and why it's special and different. And maybe you can sell some on Instagram and get into retail at some point. You become the brand ambassador for that product.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I think our launch went probably like a little too well. We finished our first month at 35% net after PPC on it.
Nice.
So maybe private label is easier in 2026 too. I don't know.
For every time I hear, it's funny being in the position I'm in, that because I hear all the stories. I hear the sob stories, and I hear I barely even tried and it just exploded into success. I hear, and everything in between.
Mm-hmm.
But when I process it, I like to look at the big numbers. When people say, hey, what's the future of this business? I've been arguing lately that I think right now might be one of the greatest times ever to get started, because there is this kind of air from all the people who did it for, since COVID till now. And they're tapering off because, it's just not the same as it was during the ridiculous explosion of COVID when people got online and bought everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not like that anymore. Well, it still has a very bright future. E-commerce is still only 18% of retail. It's only 18% of retail, man. I mean, you'd think the way people talk that it's 90% of retail. It's not. It's 18% with 20, 30, 40 projected in the next decade or two. Amazon's half that game, approximately.
Mm-hmm.
And the number of ASINs coming on board, Keepa's tracked in 1.4 billion, and they're adding more constantly. Like, the reselling game has a very bright future. Amazon.
I had that as a note on here. Like, I'm a glass half full type of guy. I'm definitely like an optimist. So it kind of, as you mentioned, there are quite a few sellers leaving. Back in like 2020 through 2022, it was a massive influx.
Mm-hmm.
So sellers are leaving, competition is leaving, the total sales and revenue is increasing, and the split, I think it was Market Pulse who released it, the split between private label and third-party resellers like ourselves is staying the same. So the third-party seller overall revenue is increasing. What'd you say?
There's fewer of us.
There's fewer of us, and there's more sales between us.
Yeah. If you want to scare me with a number, say shoppers are leaving the internet. Okay, now I'm nervous about e-commerce and Amazon. But that's simply not the case. Shoppers are shopping more than ever online and on Amazon, and there's fewer sellers to compete with. And Amazon has clarified a lot of the policies. The ones that frustrated people have been clarified. Like, you look at the people who jumped out because of the whole bundle thing. It's like, I can't just pull random brands together and call it my own brand and sell a bunch of it. And some people made a ton of money. And then Amazon said, you can't do that anymore.
Right.
And they retroactively even punished some people. All that's been clarified. All that dust has settled. Now it's just, hey, there's several million ASINs that aren't stocked very well that people want to buy and are willing to pay more than buy box to buy. Like, come on in, the water's fine. So I'd say
I
clueless
I would say
users have a good chance right now of doing really, really well.
I'm seeing it in wholesale. So we still have like a couple of like the large accounts that we compete with on everything. So they're present, and I think that's going to continue. However, the people that I've talked to that do RA and OA, specifically RA, seems to be like a dying niche. There seems to be a ton of opportunity there. I've been hearing, even with all the changes on Amazon, that margins are increasing, and you have less shoppers that you're competing against too, especially if you guys are hitting up the same stores. So I heard in 2022 that it wasn't like it used to be, and of course, now you'll still hear it's not like it used to be, but
I've been hearing it's not like it used to be for 23 years, man. That just doesn't work on me anymore. The first time eBay raised its prices, I remember the first time they raised their seller fees and the collective outrage of the seller community. The game's over. You've just killed this opportunity for hundreds of thousands of great people. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And what ended up happening? Customers paid a little bit more. and we just kept right on going, man. It didn't change anything. And that's what I like to remind sellers all the time is whatever fee increase, it's just like a tax, you know, like, oh, they're going to tax the corporations finally. Well, shoppers are going to pay. That's who pays. It's the shoppers that pay all the fees and the fines and the increase. As long as it hits all of us the same way, it's not a disadvantage. Where it gets scary is if shoppers get scared away. Like, you know what? Amazon's just too expensive. I'm not going to shop there anymore. That's the metric to watch. And as long as that doesn't start happening, man, the sky's the limit. That's my vantage point. And it's not even a half glass full kind of vantage point. It's just reality. If shoppers are shopping and willing to pay, why aren't you on there, man? Get off the bad ASINs, get on the good ones. There's millions of them. That's where I'm at. That's what I'm seeing, and plenty of evidence to back it up too.
I agree. I think that's one of the reasons our ASINs have been expanding. I think we sat last year at 500 to 600 ASINs for the majority of the year.
Wow,
And
more
towards
than
the end
doubled.
of, yeah, it's doubled in the past year. I mean, our revenue increased as well, but even with us being more selective, it just seems like there's lower competition. There's a lot of ASINs that we're the only FBA seller on. Even Keepa will say it sells less than 50 a month. There's no yellow line, but we might sell 180 in a month.
Ooh, now that's a great data point. Okay, that needs a highlight. So Keepa, let's not go, let's leave Keepa out of this. Amazon is reporting 50 or fewer sales per month on an ASIN that you sold 180 times.
Yeah, we've sold 300 ourselves with other FBA sellers, and it's said 50 before, 50 plus.
And it doesn't adjust the next month because that's a trailing indicator.
Yeah, the line goes away the next month. So I find that
I find
it underreports pretty severely. I mean, which is we'd want it to be conservative anyway.
Yes, we do, but that's great because I was under the impression I've been under the impression that we rely on that number. It's great that it's conservative. I have no problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that 50 could mean a whole lot more than 50, that's cool because I haven't seen a lot of those ASINs.
I'm thinking, and this is complete conjecture, I think they're doing it based off of orders. So all of these ASINs that seem to be the exception, I might sell 10 or 20 in an order.
Yes, so it's probably orders. That would make sense. I would doubt that they're reporting an inaccurate number. So I bet you're right. But this is just another area where Amazon, if you're listening, it'd be really cool to throw us a bone about some of these basic questions that would help everyone. Shoppers, sellers, your investors, your employees. Come on, man. Let shoppers sort by delivery speed. Who are you going to hurt, right? Come on. Why does it have to be about the lowest price all the time? You're pounding people to go after the lowest price. Let shoppers shop, dude. Let them spend the money they want to spend. But that's it. That's my rant for Amazon for listening.
I'm sure they do.
I've gotten some pretty strong indicators that they do, including being invited to lunch, but with a senior VP a while back. Man, that was pretty cool. But we're out here doing the heavy lifting. He said, "Man, keep filling the shelves the way you guys do. We'll never be able to fill the shelves as well as the reseller community. Thank you." That's pretty cool to hear from a senior VP, dude that talks to Bezos all the time at the time. Like, he works for Bezos, and that's what he told me. It's like, tell this to the community. I've mentioned it many times before. All right. Well, this is a good episode, man. You gave us a lot of your time today, but I just love kind of bouncing around different topics with you. And I'm a huge fan, man. I know the blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into building what you've built and the flexibility that you've pulled out of it. You're not sitting there, nose to the grindstone, 18 hours a day making this happen. You're, very flexible lifestyle. You travel, you enjoy your family. Congratulations, man. You're an inspiration.
I appreciate it. Thank you. It all started by my mom recommending your community. So thank you.
Hey, thanks, Mom. Awesome. Well, good stuff, Matt. Good to see you again, buddy. Don't be a stranger. If I can do anything, always reach out, okay?
I appreciate it. Same to you, Jim.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. I'll wrap it up here by saying to the listeners who hung out with us for this conversation, if you liked what you heard today, I've got some good news for you. We've been doing this a while. We've got dozens of recent episodes where we've interviewed our successful students and sellers who've come through the Proven Amazon course or our coaching program. We've got dozens of those. We got hundreds over the past several months. And you can just listen to those episodes at your leisure. And when you're ready to take action and jump in, we've got the tools and resources and training to help you get rolling and join our community. There's all kinds of good links at silentjimdotcom. There's probably some links in the show notes to some of the resources we mentioned today as well. And let me remind you, I probably reminded you as well in the introduction, we've got our conference coming up in late August 2026. Do not miss it, the Proven Conference. There's a link in the show notes. Join us. Hundreds from this community are going to be gathering, and we can't wait to do it. I want to see you there. God bless you, business building warrior. We'll have another good episode for you very soon. Talk to you then. Hey, thanks for spending some time with us today. One last time before I let you go, I want to remind you about that free offer from 2D Workflow. They're the ones that can help you save a lot of money on your inbound shipping with FBA. They've gone out and negotiated great rates with all the carriers you're already using. And you can see a side-by-side comparison as you're preparing your shipments. And if they have a better rate, use it. It's the same carrier, less money. Why not? Go check out silentjimdotcom/2D, the number 2, the letter D, to see 2D Workflow. Thanks for spending time with us today. We'll have more great episodes for you very soon.